So good evening, everyone. A very good evening to all of you, and thank you very much for being there with us on our first LLM webinar. My name is Anand Prakash Mishra. I'm Director of Law Admissions at OP Jindal Global University and Assistant Dean at Jindal Global Law School. It's my proud privilege to introduce you to my colleague, Dr. Vishwas Devaiah, our Director of Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies, what we call CPGLS, and the Director of our LLM programs. Today's theme of this webinar is LLM programs at JGLS in the context of modern legal education. I must tell you, I did my LLM from University of Delhi, Faculty of Law, in old times. And in those times, the LLM was only a 2-year or a 3-year program. Even today in University of Delhi, it remains a 3-year LLM program and a 2-year full-time program. 2013 was a landmark year in higher legal education, when for the first time 1-year LLM program was introduced by the University's Grant Commission. And Jindal Global Law School became the first law school in India to set up its Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies and start 1-year LLM program. So traditionally, LLM has been a degree which only the teaching aspirants or those who wanted to become law teachers or law professors chose to pursue. But today, from that teaching qualification, it has moved to being a degree, a qualification which is needed to become superior legal professionals, superior lawyers, specialist lawyers in many ways. And that is the reason why all the 8 LLM programs which Jindal Global Law School offers are specialized LLM programs. So we started our LLM in the year 2010. In 2009, our law school was established, and we started with the BA LLB and BB LLB program and LLB program in that year. In 2010, our LLM program was started, and certainly with 2-year LLM program. But in 2013, we started our first 1-year LLM batch. And I must tell you, it has been a great experience getting students from around the country and around the world. And it has been, some of our alumni are now teaching in universities, working in leading law firms, in corporates, in research institutions, even in the government. And our LLM graduates have really done us proud. So today's speaker is our Director of Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies. And I must tell you, he's having a very distinguished academic background. Old-time graduate of University Law College of Bangalore University. And when I think there were only these 2 law schools, one in Nagarbavi in Bangalore, and another was the ULC in Bangalore University campus. And then he moved to Warwick University for his LLM, and the Liverpool University, he's completed his PhD. He taught in some foreign universities. Then he taught at NUJS Kolkata, and for last many years, he has been one of our most profound professors and also administrators in the law school. His contribution particularly to one of our research institutes called JIRICO, the Jindal Initiative for Research in IP and Competition, has been phenomenal. It's like he created an institution within the law school along with other colleagues and students. So without much delay, I will like to invite Professor Vishwas, and to start this first LLM webinar for the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand, for that wonderful and generous introduction. And we are ever so grateful to you. And a warm welcome to all the attendees to this webinar on LLM programs at JGLS in the context of modern legal education. I hope before I set off, I hope all of you are staying safe and staying at home. Here's the structure to my presentation, today's presentation. I'm largely going to lay out the context in which modern legal education is being offered. Second, I'm going to be looking at challenges offered by globalization to legal education. And thirdly, I'm going to focus on how Jindal Global Law School has actually kind of responded to this challenge by providing quality legal education, which not only enables and equips students to face the challenges of globalization, but also enables them to actually kind of shine in the legal profession and any profession or career choice that they make. So let me begin more by talking about the context. Now, all of us know that we live in a world where globalization is all pervading, and it's here to stay. It's not going to go away, and anything you do has a global touch to it. And what do I mean by this? You're probably listening to this webinar on your phone or on your laptop or probably a tablet. And for all you know, these devices are actually probably being manufactured in China. But it's much more complicated than just being manufactured in China, because the underlying technology is actually made by companies that are situated across various parts of the developed world, right? For instance, a phone that you're using might have a chipset which is made by Qualcomm, an American company, which is a $60 billion company situated in America. It is the underlying technology for modern smartphones, and most of the Android smartphones actually rely on the Qualcomm chipset. And these companies like Qualcomm, Ericsson, Nokia, they develop new technologies. They are the leaders in technology. And while they focus more specifically on developing new technologies, manufacturing is something that they leave it to those situated in countries like China and India. And any legal mind would tell you that in case of a contract manufacturing that needs to be, an agreement that needs to be actually drafted to ensure that a company which is an innovator ends up having a manufacturing contract with a company in China, you need a contract manufacturing agreement, and a contract manufacturing agreement definitely requires a lawyer. And a modern day lawyer today has the complex task of not only trying to understand the requirements of the innovator and the manufacturer, who are located in different locations, but they're also required to understand the legal complexities across various jurisdictions. And it goes without saying that this is something that is reflected in all aspects of law, be it mergers and acquisitions, be it international investments, intellectual property rights, antitrust issues, environmental and climate change policies, cross-border taxation related issues. All of these necessarily involve global or transnational dimension, and a lawyer cannot in these times escape these global dimensions. Today, lawyers across the world face a body of knowledge that is more complex by interdisciplinary perspectives on law and the growing importance of familiarity with foreign legal systems, international law, international trade law in an increasingly interdependent world. So it goes without saying, in a globalized environment, it's not enough that you know your domestic laws. It's necessary for you to actually be aware of transnational laws, international legal instruments, and also be familiar with different kind of legal systems, civil, common law systems, etc. And one of the foremost experts on legal education, John Sexton, notes that there are few significant legal or social problems today that are purely domestic, adding that it is virtually impossible to avoid the transnational implications of almost any subject. The penetration of international law into domestic law continues to grow, not only through international agreements, but also through the creation and growth of supranational intergovernmental organizations like the WTO, like the WIPO. So there are a whole lot of international instruments and laws that today end up governing international transactions and investments. Now, that opens up an entirely new avenue, the increased openness of national borders to flows, not only of goods and services, but also of knowledge and information, has resulted in a growing disparity between the demands placed on the legal community and its ability to meet these demands. There is evidently a short supply of the skills needed to master an expanding transnational practice while also meeting the challenges of development and also meeting the challenges of understanding the domestic laws. So it's no longer enough that you know just the domestic law. If you are to become a successful lawyer in your dealings, you will have to have a familiarity with transnational laws and familiarity with legal systems in other countries, right? So, of course, globalization, everyone agrees, and there is a broad agreement about globalization. And of course, there are also major critiques of globalization, but there is a broad agreement on the need to develop a legal curriculum that is responsive to the challenges of globalization. But there's little agreement on how to go about it. The fact that there is globalization, it's all pervading, lawyers are not exempted from it, means that law school education will also have to adapt to these new developments and changes. And that actually produces a whole lot of challenges. So let's now discuss the challenges for law school education, not necessarily come from the context of merely postgrad legal education, but also in general, the legal education faces a huge challenge to adapt to the global demands. So the first major requirement is there is an increased expectation on the qualities of a law graduate, wherein it is no longer sufficient for a law graduate to have knowledge of general laws, but it is expected to have an understanding of specialized subjects. I mean, we can go back 10, 15 years back, and a law school graduate was not expected to know anything beyond his syllabus, not expected to know anything in terms of a specialized domain. But in modern times, a law school graduate is expected to at least have an interest in a specialized area, be it corporate law, be it as specific as mergers and acquisition, be it knowledge in antitrust laws or specialization in intellectual property rights. This has actually become a demand. And for someone like me, who's actually come from a traditional university setting, we all know if you're part of a traditional university setting, you end up studying what the Bar Council ends up prescribing. There's a whole lot of mandatory subjects, and a lot of traditional universities struggle with faculty resources, and as such are not possibly in a position to offer specialized in-depth knowledge in a particular area, right? If that is not enough, it is no longer enough to have an understanding of domestic laws, but it is expected to have, you're expected to have an understanding of laws within a global context and a familiarity of different legal systems, right? What happens in US? What happens in EU? How is the EU law influencing antitrust laws in India? How is the US jurisprudence on patent laws influencing how the Indian judges actually go about their laying down the jurisprudence? All of this is absolutely necessary. It's not enough to know the black letter of the law in a particular country, but you need to demonstrate a global perspective that shows that you have knowledge of different jurisdictions. You may not have expertise, but knowledge is a fairly important element. To this, of course, someone like Simon Chesterfield has observed that legal education has always been influenced by a tension between academic pursuits and a professional qualification. So he's trying to actually say in modern times, when you go to a law school, there's this big tension. Is the law school education creating an academic with a critical bent of mind, or is a law school education trying to cater to a particular market wherein a student wants to actually study law primarily to qualify the bar examination in that particular country? And as such, law school students in many countries are trained to understand merely the domestic law, as license to practice law is dependent on passing the professional examinations held by their bar associations. This means there is a problem, because this is a narrow focus. There is a narrow focus involved here, and deprives the student of developing a global perspective, because you're only orienting yourself to the laws of your country, because you need to meet a certain examination, you need to qualify a certain entrance to become a legal practitioner in your country. And law schools and students are usually torn apart. Where do we place ourselves? Do I actually make myself an expertise in academia, or should I actually kind of develop a certain tool set of knowledge which is necessary for me to practice the law, which is necessary for me to pass the bar examination? And this increasing belief to train towards eventual admission to legal practice has resulted in professional bodies in various countries imposing a crowded curriculum that leaves students with little time to reflect on what they have studied in the various courses and how it can be applied in a global context. And it's true. In a country like India, you've already noticed that the Bar Council of India mandates that you're required to study certain number of mandatory subjects, especially if you've taken a BA LLB course, which is usually offered in traditional universities, which does not involve a honors element. You're largely stuck to the curriculum mandated by the Bar Council. You don't have the option of going in for electives, etc. And even where electives are taught in certain law schools, there is no global perspective kind of lent to it, because of the need to actually kind of ensure that the student is able to face the professional bar examination. So with this kind of a tension and a challenge that globalization tends to kind of create, modern legal education, especially in a country like India, needs to address these gaps and challenges. And at Jindal Global Law School, we offer global legal education that prepares our students to meet the challenges of a globalized world. Some of and some of the key attributes of what we do in our LL.M programs at JGLS is: A, we ensure that we offer a global curriculum. A global curriculum is something that takes into consideration the developments that are actually going on across the world. For instance, students in India barely study, courses like artificial intelligence, cloud computing, machine learning, and the law, right? Data protection related issues related to these new technologies. I mean, barely an institute in India, law school in India, tends to offer these subjects, let alone some other law schools call it as esoteric subjects, right? Not available because they do not have the resources. At Jindal Global Law School, we offer these range of subjects which are global, which are current, which are trending, which are absolutely necessary, right? So in essence, the global curriculum picks out the developments that are happening in various jurisdictions, new developments in various technologies, and we tend to kind of formulate a curriculum that kind of incorporates these elements, right? Say, for instance, nobody in India is today studying artificial evidence and privacy, or artificial intelligence and delivery of justice. These are absolutely interesting elements that we all need to understand. And a global curriculum is designed in such a way that you study as the issues are actually cropping up. And that is the USP of a law school like Jindal Global Law School. The second major element in Jindal Global Law School is the fact that we look at global faculty. And by global faculty, I mean our faculty members are largely the ones who've actually had exposure to international education. They've done their masters abroad, they've done their PhDs abroad. They've actually, seen how legal education has been imparted in a completely different manner, right? So in that way, we've actually most of our faculty members have their masters or PhDs from international universities like Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Berkeley, Stanford, and many other universities across the globe, which are in the top 50, right? And if that's not enough, nearly 17 to 20% of our faculty members are largely foreign faculty members. These are people who've been born abroad, who've studied abroad, who've seen a different kind of exposure. And these people, when they come to the class, offer you and tend to challenge your perspectives and your beliefs, right? If that's not enough, our global faculty, global faculty also tends to have a large amount of experience in the industry, in law firms, tends to have, some of them have spent several years in public policy, and some of them have also been part of international agencies. So you can imagine when a faculty like this steps into the classroom, the level of classroom learning and the pedagogy actually goes up by many notches, right? The other important element that we tend to see in our Jindal Law School education is every subject is designed in such a way that it provides a comparative perspective. For instance, a course on intellectual property rights is designed in such a manner that it actually takes into account and compares the developments in United States, in Europe, in UK, in number of other Commonwealth countries. And this perspective, comparative perspective, is what enables students to understand the different dimensions of law and the way the principles are operating in different jurisdictions. It not only enables us to understand the differences, but it also enables us to appreciate the sameness as well in certain contexts. The other major consideration and important aspect is faculty research. It's probably one of the leading law schools in Asia with so many faculty members publishing in international peer-reviewed journals, right? And this rich faculty research experience is not something that is left behind in the closed doors and confines of a faculty's office or his house, but it's taken into the classroom. It feeds into the classroom learning, and that is the major difference between Jindal and what we offer here and a number of other law schools. The other important concept that we tend to explore and experiment is what is called, and more specifically at a postgrad level, it is called as flipped classroom experience. A flipped classroom experience is something wherein we push our students to actually prepare for a class much before in advance. We give them a set of issues for them to actually think through before they come to attend the class. Here, the learning is not merely a one-way learning where someone is actually lecturing, but when you enter the class, it ends up into a class-based discussion wherein you not only learn from the teacher, but you're also involved in peer-to-peer learning. And remember, the diversity of classroom. We not only have students from India, we also have students from other countries. The cultural context, the diversity, all of this presents new perspectives enabling students to kind of appreciate the differences and appreciate the sameness at the same time. Are mandated by the Bar Council even for postgrad legal education like LL.M, which requires studying, subjects like legal research methods. Our emphasis in offering courses like legal research methods is not an instance of textbook reading, but taking the student through the various aspects of legal research, taking the students to understand the elements that are part of legal research and legal writing, enabling them to develop the various skills involved in effective communication, effective writing. So in essence, it does not we don't confine ourselves to offering these skill-based learning in subjects like legal research methods. We offer a number of other courses wherein our faculty members focus more specifically on practitioners' perspective on a particular area, for instance, competition law, or for instance, developing certain legal skills like drafting contracts. What are the elements involved? What should we appreciate in writing, drafting contractual agreements? These are skill-based learning instances, and these are heavily subscribed and fairly popular among students for the simple fact that barely any law schools touch on these issues and offer courses in a skill-based learning environment. The other important element that Jindal Global Law School stands out for is probably a unique experience for even a one-year LL.M student, where we have a possibility of the LL.M student probably collaborating with international students. We are known for our global collaborations and exchanges. That primarily means we have a number of, exchange programs and dual LL.M programs that enables our LL.M students to spend 6 months here and spend 6 months abroad, enabling them to kind of opening them up to new perspectives, new dimensions, which are usually a transformative experience. And one can understand that in a short span of 1 year, we try to achieve all of this and try to enable our students to get access to these kinds of learning ways and approaches. And the last and the most important element that I think in our LL.M program is the fact that we don't offer a course merely from the perspective of the student needs to actually enter a particular kind of job market. That's a very, very limiting approach, which a lot of law schools in India and abroad are approaching legal education as such. We don't necessarily believe that our students are trained merely in law to become legal practitioners, to actually end up in law firms. We think our students can actually outdo that. A lot of our students have gone on to be entrepreneurs. They've gone on to actually curve their own path in public administration, become experts in providing policy related interventions. Our law school students have also been part of interesting research centers that are at the cutting edge of research, right? So this kind of approach, where we are not looking merely at training lawyers or creating an assembly line of students who will end up in law firms, we provide a holistic perspective in our legal education. And that is why the Jindal Masters program tends to stand out. It's not merely law firms. Of course, it goes without saying that if you are part of this legal education, you will be good enough to actually get into a law firm, but it also enables you to do much more. And the last and the most interesting element is the fact that we focus on interdisciplinarity, wherein our law school not only provides 120 electives in a semester, but there are a whole range of electives that our students can actually opt, which are not only limited to law school students. These are also courses that are offered by public policy school, banking school, international affairs schools. These electives tends to broaden your horizon and understanding in a much better way, as opposed to a very narrowly focused legal education. And I think these are the pillars and the major strengths of the LLM program offered by Jindal Global Law School. We, of course, I'll get down to the details of the various LLMs that we tend to offer. We tend to offer LLM in corporate and financial law and policy. One of the key aspects of this particular LLM specialization is the fact that we have a host of faculty members who have a rich experience in law firms, not only in India, but also abroad, who've also been part of cross-border transactions. Remember, I keep harping on this fact of cross-border transaction, transnationalism. In this particular global environment, a lot of the legal transactions require not only knowledge of one jurisdiction, but multiple jurisdictions, and ability to understand the nuances involved in these cross-border transactions. And our LLM in corporate and financial law program is actually designed to cater to that. We also offer an LLM in intellectual property and technology law. And as the nomenclature goes, it actually gives you a very good understanding of various IP laws. We offer very interesting basket of electives like music and copyright, data protection, uh, uh, global pharmaceutical regulation, and also a number of esoteric electives like uh, 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 artificial intelligence, copyright in the digital era, and the focus of the LLM program in intellectual property rights and technology law is not only to kind of give you a sense of how the IP laws tend to work across various jurisdictions, but also to give you a sense in terms of how these IP laws need to adapt and change to the new technologies that are coming up in modern times. We will be this year in 2020 starting a new LLM in competition law. The biggest strength in Jindal Global Law School is that we have 8 to 9 faculty members who have expertise in competition law, and any lawyer in modern times dealing with corporate or other kinds of laws will have to grapple with the effect of dealing in certain markets. For instance, if mergers are taking place, very important element is, does merger of two entities result in an anti-competitive environment? And the LLM in competition law not only deals with some of the traditional competition law subjects like mergers and acquisitions and competition related instances, but we also look at how big data, new digital economy presents different kind of antitrust issues in different jurisdictions. And that is one of the key USPs of our LLM in competition law. And of course, we have a very solid LLM in international trade and investments laws, where we are exploring international instruments like the GATT, the TRIPS agreement. We are looking at bilateral investment treaties, arbitration related to investment treaties, etc. We also offer a specialization in taxation law, which not only deals with different kinds of taxation, more specifically corporate taxation, but also deals with the transnational nature of taxation and the kind of issues it tends to present, like and taxation, as you know, is one of the key concerns between corporate entities, especially those who are present in multiple jurisdictions. I don't necessarily have to expand. Vodafone has experienced something very similar in India. We offer courses like transfer pricing, international taxation, etc. We also have a very unique program which focuses on environmental law, energy, and climate change. Our LLM in environmental law, energy, and climate change focuses on very, very unique aspects of environmental law, not only national but also international, but it also tries to deal with very, very important questions like sustainable development, energy laws, and climate change related issues. And this program, interestingly, is offered jointly with the Worldwide Foundation, Wildlife Foundation in India. The USP of the program is the fact that a number of WWF faculty members tend to offer specialized elective programs, and a USP of this program lies in the fact that students are engaged in field trips and field studies on the basis of which their assignment and assessments are actually taken into consideration. But if that's not enough, we offer an LLM in general legal studies, wherein there's definitely a point where a student may not have made up his mind in terms of specializing in a particular area, but wants to do a general LLM. Our LLM in general studies is fairly interesting in the sense that it allows our students to kind of actually pull in a whole range of electives which might be part of different specializations, which range from a whole range of which can range from a whole basket of electives involving international law, refugee law, business laws, intellectual property rights, environmental law. It could also involve something like law and literature. It could also involve something like feminism and gender studies. So our LLM in general legal studies is unique in the sense that you have the ability to pick from these basket of 120 electives that we tend to offer in a semester. So you putting together 2 semesters, you probably have a basket of about 200 electives from which you tend to kind of need to choose about 3 to 4 courses to actually kind of fulfill your credit criteria. If that's not enough, we do offer our students the opportunity to add on more credits, and sometimes when you reach the maximum credit limit, you also can actually audit courses where you probably do not need to kind of take an exam, but you can actually sit in a class and learn through the process. That is largely the broad range of LLM specializations that we tend to offer in Jindal Global Law School. And I would like to say here that these varied specializations are actually catered to deal with the challenges of globalization. And that is the key element that we take into consideration when we design these specializations and offer each individual course in these specializations. Thank you, one and all. And I wish to say that it was a wonderful experience, and I'm happy to kind of receive your questions and respond to your queries. And my colleague Anand can also respond to some of the queries that you have.
So thank you, Professor Vishwas. And now I will just start taking up questions one by one. And there are some interesting questions which have come up. A student wants to know about our course structure, the courses in the new LLM in competition law. There is another question about the faculty members teaching LLM in taxation law and the course structure. So I think we should start doing one by one. But before that, I will like to answer one or two questions purely related to the admission process. So there is a question how to get admission to LLM program in the law school. And I will be, the only requirement is a national level entrance exam. So we accept LSAT India exam conducted by Law School Admission Council. So LSAT India remains our primary exam for admission to LLM programs. Those students who have not registered for it, they should go and register themselves. The other two scores which we accept for admission, one is the CLAT PG exam. So those students who have who are writing CLAT PG, they are also eligible to seek admission. But certainly we encourage that a student should write LSAT India because that is our primary exam, and the first merit list of candidates in the LLM program is drawn on the basis of LSAT India results. And Delhi University LLM admission test is another exam which is score we accept for admission. Now this year, when we are actually expanding our LLM program in a big way, we are actually offering for the first time an online LLM in corporate and financial laws, and also the non-residential LLM in environmental law, energy and climate change, and the 6 other residential LLM programs, LLM in corporate and financial laws, in intellectual property rights and technology law, in international trade and investment laws, in taxation laws, in general legal studies, and in competition law. So there is a range of LLM programs. We are also introducing a JSAT LLM admission test, which we expect to be available from the month of May onwards. And we have done this particularly to help LLM aspirants to write the exam online and preferably from their home. And it will be an online LLM online admission test, but this test is yet to be started. Hopefully in the month of May, we will notify it. And looking at the COVID situation, I think that will be very helpful. So now I will request my colleague, Professor Vishwas, to take up the question about the course structure and the academic plan for the LLM program in competition law and taxation law and in general.
Right. So to give you a broad perspective in terms of how the courses are structured, the UGC regulates the LLM education, and as such, they mandate certain core subjects which one has to actually study if you have to get an LLM degree in India. Some of these core courses are basically law and justice in a globalized world, legal research methodology, comparative public law. But apart from that, in Jindal, what we generally try and find is that students, when they come from different law schools, their knowledge and foundation of different specialized areas may not, different areas like taxation or competition law may not be up to the level. So what we generally tend to offer is, for each specialization, we tend to offer a foundation course. Let's say, for instance, competition law, we have a foundational course in competition law. And after they finish this foundational course, they also have the option of actually taking in 5 elective courses. And now these elective courses for competition law range from subjects like interface between intellectual property rights and competition law, standard essential patents and antitrust issues, merger control and antitrust issues, competition law in the digital environment. And we also look at EU and India specific competition laws, right? So these are some of the electives for competition law, and we also offer a practitioner oriented perspective on competition law, right? For taxation laws, we also tend to have these mandatory core subjects like legal research methodology, comparative public law, as well as law and justice in a globalized world. We also offer them elective courses which are related to corporate taxation, which are related to international taxation, which are largely focusing on stuff like some of the electives focus on stuff like tax administration and dispute resolution. We also offer courses or electives like taxing technology. We also look at some courses which are related to indirect taxes and GST. We also offer international taxation as such. So there's a whole range of electives that we tend to offer even in the tax law course. And interestingly enough, tax law is probably a fairly underdeveloped legal specialization in a country like India, and our USP would be in offering these broad range of electives to our students. Over to my friend Anand.
Yes, some new questions have come up. I was just taking note. And Wafa has asked a question about the online LLM program. Wafa Jallu. She has asked about what is this online LLM and what will be the fee structure and all. So, internationally, there have been amazing online LLM programs offered by universities in the US, in UK, and all over. London School of Economics has been popular in past, and it's something which Jindal Global Law School is doing for the first time in India, offering a rigorous full-time taught LLM program in corporate and financial laws. And we have tied up with a company called Upgrad, and it will be offered online, and it will be a rigorous program. The fee for the LLM program, the tuition fee, is 3 lakh rupees for the residential program, which also there is an extra cost of residence, which includes hostel, food and laundry and all of 2.4 lakh, which is for all programs of the university. But the non-residential programs and online program, only tuition fee is the component. So it's 4 lakh rupees, be it the environmental law program, and it has to be paid in 2 semesters. So that is about course fee. And I will also encourage all the students to go to our law school website and look at the LLM brochure. We have an elaborate brochure with a list of courses, faculty details, there are many questions which will be answered if you just read the brochure carefully. And my colleague, Ms. Anshu Gupta, who is our LLM admission manager, will send you the LLM brochure by email also, so you can go through that. But the question for Professor Vishwas is, Asna has asked about curriculum for corporate and financial laws. I think a course which you teach. And Durga has a question: what is the difference between corporate law LLM and international trade law LLM? So I would like you to take these questions.
Yeah, thanks, Anand. Like I said, for all our LLM specialization, we do have to offer the mandated courses which UGC requires us to offer. But apart from that, we generally tend to offer a basket of electives, about 8 to 10, 5 in each semesters generally, which range from subjects like mergers and acquisition to international banking, to international financial regulation, to also, dealing with subjects like corporate governance, securities regulation. All of these courses are actually kind of offered with a global perspective in mind. When we talk about corporate governance, we also deal with Sarbanes-Oxley Act in US. We also deal with how the corporate governance norms actually got incorporated in a country like India, and the challenges in actually transplanting uh, the corporate governance norms in the West to an Indian setup where our corporate entities are largely family oriented, right? So there are a whole range of these electives, like I said, mergers, securities regulation, international banking, insolvency laws, insurance laws. So a whole range of electives are on offer both the semesters. And usually we suggest our students to kind of pick two or three electives in each semester. And what was the other question, Anand?
Was about the difference between the corporate and financial law LLM and international trade and investment law LLM.
Right. So the primary difference in the corporate law LLM and the trade law LLM is the fact that in corporate law, we are largely looking at the corporate entity, right? And looking everything from the dimension of a corporate entity, there are a whole range of subjects that we tend to offer. But when you're looking at international trade law and investment law courses, we are looking at international instruments like the GATT, like we're looking at the dispute settlement organization set up under the WTO framework. We're looking at international instruments like the TRIPS agreement, which is largely dealing with trade related aspects on intellectual property rights. So largely the course on trade law deals with trade law dimensions, which are largely sourced from international legal instruments. And we also look at stuff like bilateral investment treaties, how investment treaties are actually posing a major challenge, more specifically investment treaties and commercial arbitration, right? So there's a whole range of subjects wherein the dimension is largely towards trade and investment as far as specialization in trade and investment laws is concerned. Whereas when you're looking at corporate law, we are looking at it from the standpoint of the unit called the corporate entity, and a whole range of subjects that tends to regulate a corporate entity. And that would be the major difference. So a trade law subject will then have to deal with a lot of these aspects, or international instruments. The governments tend to deal with these aspects, right? And of course, in modern times, when you're looking at investment laws, and more specifically investment treaties that India entered into a number of investment treaties in the past, more than 100 of them, and now India is being sued left, right, and center by corporate entities through arbitration mechanisms, right? So we are looking at not merely the corporate entity in the trade law, we are looking at the sovereign called a particular country, right? India or some other country, and how they are actually dealing with these different trade law regimes developed internationally.
One question which I find from many students, and also a student named Durga had just asked about placements for LLM students. What are the placement opportunities and how university supports? So before I invite your answer, I would like to tell one thing to the students very candidly, that job placements are not something which should be the primary reason to do an LLM program. Of course, we have a very dedicated Office of Career Services, professionals full-time working with that. Our LLM graduates have secured top-class jobs in corporates, in law firms, and even in teaching at premier universities like National Law University, I know our LLM graduates are teaching in permanent teaching positions at a law school like National Law University, Jodhpur. In particular, I know some of our graduates and other institutions also. But the job placements, if any institution assures or guarantees something like that, absolutely that is not believable. Even the Harvard Law School and Oxford University and all those premier institutions, it depends on a lot of factors. But my experience is our students of LLM program have done great. We have our placement office as record. Anshu can send the placement details of our LLM graduates to you by email. And I would like to invite Professor Vishwas to say about it. He has taught many LLM batches.
Thanks, Anand. Like I said in my talk, that when we offer our LLM programs, we obviously take into consideration that, of course, our students will also want to enter the job market. But the job market is not something that we see purely in the dimension of a law firm job or a corporate job or a litigation job. We look at the fact that there are a whole range of interests among students. Some of them want to be researchers. Some of them want to go on and develop an interest in teaching. They want to be professors. Some of them want to actually be part of research centers and think tanks. Some of them want to actually get into public administration. So keeping all of this in mind, our syllabus is oriented towards, encapsulating all of these interests. But if you're asking, can we guarantee placements? That's unlikely to happen, because no law school worth its salt will be able to guarantee you a placement. The idea of legal education is to train you so that you have the potential to enter the job market. The ability to kind of get a job through our placement cell is entirely dependent on you, and our placement office works with you, also imparts soft skills, enables you to develop certain soft skills through which you can actually kind of use those skills to kind of get a job for yourself through campus placements. That, of course, there are a lot of firms, there are a lot of companies like Bajaj Alliance, Mahindra, Tech Mahindra, Kotak Mahindra, other banking and financial institutions, number of consultation firms do come to our campuses. It's entirely dependent on how you impress upon them and how you prevail or convince them that you have the potential to be part of their journey, right? So placements do happen, but it is dependent on you. It is how much you absorb from the kind of education that we tend to deliver, and how you can actually kind of convince the recruiter that you are good enough for it. That's how it tends to work.
Thanks, Vishwas, for that response. But I would like to, based on my memory, I have been with the law school for almost 9 years, and I have seen some of our LM graduates. A boy who came from MS University in Baroda, from their law school in 2010, the very first batch, studied in one of the NLU for a month or two, and then left and came and joined our LLM batch. His first job was with Tata Sons legal department, headed by Bharat Vasni, and he closely worked in the team of the General Counsel of Tata Sons, which is considered to be the most prestigious corporate legal department in the whole country. I remember our LLM graduate who came from a government law college in Sikkim, and she actually went on to get a full scholarship to do a second LLM, a one-year LLM in China, in I think Peking or Tsinghua University, a very prestigious university, an LLM in Chinese law. And she is one of the rare graduates I find who have an LLM from Indian Law School, and also another LLM from a Chinese law school. In 2 years, he got those 2 LLM degrees. And I'm sure he is doing very well with some maybe firm or corporate setup. I'm not aware. I even remember one of our LLM graduates who came from Kerala, from Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam. And from there, he went on to become an assistant professor in one of the top national law universities. Even I know some of our LLM graduates who are teaching in other law schools. Recently, one in Bennett University Law School, I found quite a few in few other law schools.
NLU
And most
Jodhpur.
surprisingly, even I found one of our LLM graduates joining us at Jindal Global Law School as research associate. So there are LLM graduates who are also choosing the academic option, as well as in many law firms I know, in Nishit Desai Associates, in Khetan and Company, in Luthra, in quite few law firms where our BA, LLB, and LLB graduates get placed. Our LLM graduates also get placed. But certainly the LLM graduates have some wider options, and also based on their specialization. So if somebody is studying an LLM in IP, they will prefer an IP firm or to litigate as an IP lawyer rather than going for any general job. So those are things I wanted to add. Now we have questions. Mr. P.S. Bharat Chandran. Bharat Chandran is asking about the structure of our IP law program. And as I know, you also teach IP. So what is the course structure of IPR and technology law? I would like you to throw light on that.
Right. So, Bharat, if I'm right, is a, like I said, the structure is such that we tend to offer the 3 mandated courses which the UGC asks us to do. We also offer a foundational course because we believe that when students come from number of other institutions, their foundation is in IP law is not necessarily well developed. So we tend to offer a foundational course, and then they get an option of actually choosing 5 electives, 4 to 5 electives, and usually there are a range of electives offered on a regular basis, right? Like I said, music and copyright, copyright in a digital environment, advanced intellectual property right. And we tend to offer courses on data protection law. We tend to offer courses on cyber law. We tend to offer courses on information technology. We also offer courses which are more specific to certain destinations, like EU database law, for instance. There also possibility of actually kind of studying the interface between intellectual property rights and competition law, and courses like global pharmaceutical regulation. There's a whole range of electives that is available. In fact, we are the largest law school with the highest number of IP faculty members, right? No law school in India has as many IP experts teaching in the school.
That is true. I think it's more than a dozen professors have a specialization in IP, and from the best places in the world. So there are few questions. We have limited time left. So 3 important questions I would like to put to you. But before that, one question is about how to prepare for LLM entrance exam. So that I will like to take. And I must tell you, all the serious LLM aspirants of Jindal Global Law School, they must write LSAT India exam. And another student was asking queries about scholarships in LLM program. I would like to tell you, there are select scholarships based on your LSAT percentile, and that range from 10% of tuition fee up to 75% of tuition fee to select students. absolutely on LSAT merit, and there is a parental income limit criteria where the parental income should not exceed the amount fixed by the university's admissions committee. So writing LSAT India exam is important from a scholarship point of view, as well as doing well in that exam for both admission and scholarship. Now, to prepare for LSAT India exam, I will recommend two sources. One is the LSAT India website itself. So discoverlaw.in is the portal of LSAT India. Those who have registered for the exam, they must have been there. And there is a full page on how to prepare for the test. And once you go to the test prep page, they provide you 200 pages of free download. There are 4 full-length question papers. There are some sample questions and answers. Even there are some videos which you can watch. And the second resource I will tell you is to go to the Khan Academy website. khanacademy.org is a very popular portal. And in the test prep section, you just click LSAT and you will find number of videos in different areas of analytical reasoning, logical reasoning, and reading comprehension. The areas which are tested in LSAT India exam. So unlike other LLM admission tests like CLAT PG or DU LLM or any other LLM entrance test in the country, Jindal's LLM admission test doesn't ask any question related to law, your knowledge of law or any legal subject. Rather, it tests your reasoning and language abilities. So basically reading comprehension and analytical reasoning and logical reasoning. So use these two resources, and both are free. And I think you can prepare for LSAT India exam very well. Now, the question for Professor Vishwas is, what is particular advantage to do LLM at Jindal? That is one question being asked by a student vis-a-vis other LLM programs in the country. And there is another question which is something unrelated to it. It seems some undergraduate aspirant had joined this discussion, and she is asking, how can I join LLM at Harvard Law School if I study 5-year law program at JGLS? So that may not be much relevant, but particular advantage of doing LLM at Jindal is something I would like you to take up.
Right. Let me kind of also let everyone know that before coming to Jindal Global Law School, I also worked for 2.5 years in a very well-known national law school called the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, or shortly known as NUJS, right? And I have a fairly good experience in terms of how master's education in national law schools, tends to go. And I also have a good idea in terms of how LLM programs are offered in a number of other institutions in India. To give you a sense, Jindal aims to actually integrate our master's students with the rest of the Jindal community. Unlike the kind of experience that you tend to have in various national law schools, where, if you're an LLM student, you're pretty much, living an existence in isolation where you're not necessarily part of the larger 5-year law program. Unlike that kind of a scenario, we tend to integrate our students with various other courses and various other streams that we tend to offer. And the biggest USP is the fact that you are walking into a law school which has the highest number of faculty members in any law school in Asia. We have nearly, our biggest strength is the fact that we have 330 faculty members in the law school. And if you look at 330 faculty members and the kind of specialized domains that they have expertise in, you can imagine the range of electives that are on offer. I already said you can walk into a national law school, let's say NLS or an NUJS or any other law school in India for that matter. Will you get these many electives? The answer to that question is no. No other law school can offer you nearly 200 plus electives in a span of 1 year. Remember, in a span of 1 year, and out of which you're supposed to take 4 or 5 courses, right? And that increases and enhances the choices that you're making. A specialization can only be a specialization if you have enough choices under that basket of specializations. So you have a whole range of courses offered, and you can pick and choose from those courses for that specialization. And that is the biggest difference. The biggest difference is, look at the qualifications in various other law schools, faculty members qualification in other law schools, and look at the qualification of our law school faculty members and the publication record of our faculty members. That tells you the kind of quality that we actually give in our law school education, not just the undergrad education, but postgraduate legal education. The experience is broad ranging from practice to people who have actually been part of international agencies, and that is quite simply an invaluable one, which you cannot actually quantify it in any possible way. And I think these are some of the major differences between various law schools in India and the LLM program that we tend to offer as such, right? The quality is by far one of the best. Anand?
Yes, so there is an interesting question from a student in Hindi, and he has typed so beautifully. His name is Prakash Joshi, and Prakash has asked, he has done LLB in Hindi medium from Rajasthan, Bikaner district, and because of being a Hindi medium student, we do not think about going to law schools like Jindal, because even if we can write good English and understand it completely, we feel our speaking ability in English is not that great, and therefore, I mean, we are not very much inspired and encouraged to take up, LLM program. So before you answer this question, how to, strengthen that English language along with pursuing LLM at Jindal, I will give an example of a girl from Afghanistan who joined our LLM program some 2 or 3 years back. Her name was Tahmina Inayat, I still remember. And when she came, she was not even able to speak or write English because her medium of instruction was, I think, Afghani language, some language in Afghanistan. But she had a first-class LLB degree from the Kabul University, and she was not able to express herself at all in English. So that is not the problem with our students in India. Even if they are studying law in Hindi medium, their English is quite good. And as Prakash has said, he can write good English. And I believe if you write good English and you can understand your lectures just because of speaking abilities, I don't think there is any barrier to a study LLM program. Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, to respond to that question, we had a very interesting situation where we had a student with a similar kind of a background who came from South Delhi, one of the villages bordering Delhi, with an ability to largely express himself in Hindi, but can write English, but not necessarily even good grammar for that matter. And the strength of Jindal Global Law School, because of the fact that we also have international students, is that we are aware of these problems. We also have an English language center, and the English language center is meant to kind of encourage students who have any kind of language issues, either spoken English, written English, or a combination of both. They can actually avail the services of the English language center to actually come up to speed before they start, or even while doing the LLM, they can actually catch up. And Rahul Pawar, as the name goes, if I remember correctly, ended up not only doing very well in his academics, but also has gone on to do really well in his career. And he came from a Hindi medium background. He couldn't write much of English, but over a period of 12 months was able to actually perform really well. And language disabilities are not the only instant, not something that is only Indian students have. Language problems also come with a lot of international students. We have students from China, we have students from Afghanistan, we have students from a few African countries, and we try and work with them. It's Anand.
So I was just looking at a few more questions, but I think we are coming to an end, and we have covered most of the questions. There are a few questions related to students that have asked, and I must tell you, in LLM program, we have a very limited scholarship budget. Generally, if you look at LLM programs globally, there is almost no scholarship available in the law schools in the US or UK or most of the places. But we give a scholarship to select students based on LSAT merit, and that is the only criteria along with the parental income limit. It ranges from 10% to 75% of tuition fee. So if you get a 99 percentile score or you are a topper in LM admission test and you satisfy parental income limit requirement, means your parental income is not more than the limit prescribed by the law school, you may look forward to even a 75% tuition fee waiver or a 50% or a 25% or 10%. These are the four kind of tuition fee waivers which are given as scholarships in the LLM program. But there is no scholarship provision in non-residential LLM and the online LLM programs. It's available only in the residential LLM program. There is a question which I like to put across it could be the last question. There are two students, Anshu Kadian and Abhinav Vadwa. They have asked about why we should prefer a 1-year LLM vis-a-vis a 2-year or 3-year LLM program. A 2-year or 3-year LLM gives more time, and is there any specific advantage or disadvantage of doing a 1-year LLM program? So
Yeah,
please.
to answer that question, it's not the duration of the course that really matters. It is the quality of the education you get in that duration that matters. So it's not, the number of subjects that you get to study, or it's not the number of years you get to actually do your masters. It is how well the course is actually designed. And even if it might actually sound that it's just 2 semesters, which is 1 year, the quality that is given, the quality that is imparted in that program is more important, as opposed to the length or the duration. So I simply would say that what you really need to look at when you compare a 2-year or a 3-year program to a 1-year program is what is it that is offered and what quality is imparted. That is more important.
And I will also like to add, as per UGC regulation, as per the CPGLS notification of January 2013, not all universities can offer 1-year LLM. Only those law schools or universities which are able to set up the CPGLS, Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies, and notify the number of full professors, associate professors, assistant professors, required number of faculty members, and that kind of academic rigor which is needed in the 1-year LLM program, if the law school is able to offer, only those law schools can offer the 1-year LLM program. And the biggest advantage I feel is you save a year, a whole year you save. Otherwise, what takes 2 years, you study a bit hard and finish your LLM degree in 1 year time. And you can move ahead with your PhD if you are keen about higher education and research, or simply move to the profession or to corporate or your legal jobs if you are not keen about pursuing academics or research as a career. So I think that's the great advantage of choosing 1-year LLM over a 2-year or 3-year LLM program. 3-year LLM is anyway no more available in most of the places except some oldest universities like Delhi University. But 2-year LLM is still there in most of the universities in the country. But our national law universities and most of the leading private law schools, they all have moved with the 1-year LLM program. And I'm really happy to see the way this program has proven to be another bold experiment in higher education in law. So after the introduction of 5-year LLB program in 1987, I think this 2013 is another bold experiment which has been hugely successful. And today we are able to offer 8 specialized LLM programs at Jindal Global Law School only because it's a 1-year LLM program, and our students can finish the degree in 1 year time. So, any closing remarks, Mr. Vishwas?
No, I believe that intensive learning is more important as opposed to kind of a relaxed environment for pursuing your masters, which is what our 2-year LLM programs tend to do in a number of institutions. And as a result, there was a need felt to kind of meet again, it also is a measure taken. The 1-year LLM program was also a measure taken to kind of meet the requirements of the global aspirations of Indian students, because a number of LLM programs in a number of countries is 1-year LLM program, right? And it's a global aspiration that was actually of our own students, that was actually taken into consideration while making that decision of allowing 1-year LLM programs in India. And I think Jindal is the best situated law school in the country to offer the 1-year LLM programs with its wide diversities and interdisciplinary approach. Thank you.
So thank you very much, and thank you all the students who are there with us, who have spared their time and ask questions. Once this lockdown and the situation get normal, I like to invite you to our campus And we would also like to invite you to our webinars. They will continue. There is a webinar coming up on 25th where some 5 law deans from the US and UK and India, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajkumar, they are deliberating about global legal education and related issues. And more webinars keep on coming. We will informing you. And thank you very much for joining us. Our LL.M admission manager, Ms. Anshu Gupta, and supported by Ms. Anugya, they will remain in touch with you for all the guidance and support. And we will start issuing LL.M admission offers very soon after conducting the interviews of successful applicants. So if you have not submitted application, please do it now. We will not wait for the entrance exams to be conducted in this situation, and conditional admission offers will be issued based on your application and your interview. So please complete your application and please submit the LSAT India application form. Thank you very much, and we look forward to see you. Thank you.
Yeah.